I apologize for asking, but are you saying you'd rather I not come to the wedding tomorrow? I want to make sure I understand your meaning clearly. What I meant, I believe Marty would also prefer it if his less fortunate sister, who works at a supermarket, didn't attend. It was the first time I truly felt the sting of being looked down upon. They claimed it was for Marty's benefit. Invoking my brother's name left me speechless. My name is Joanna. When I was in 9th grade, our parents passed away in a car accident, leaving Marty and me alone. At first, I couldn't grasp the enormity of it. With no reliable relatives, our teachers stepped in to handle the funeral arrangements and other necessities. I could only watch, tightly holding Marty's hand. It was only after the funeral, in our quiet house, that the reality sank in. I wept uncontrollably, tears flowing until exhaustion claimed me. When I awoke, a strange calm had settled over me, as if I had expended a lifetime's worth of tears in one night. With a clear mind, I pondered how best to move forward, ensuring Marty's well-being above all else. That was my priority. Opting not to pursue college, I decided to enter the workforce instead. Concerns about finding a job without a high school diploma nagged at me, but a classmate's parent who owned a supermarket came through with an opportunity. Would you be interested in working here? The pay isn't great, but the team is wonderful. While others relished their high school experience in crisp new uniforms, I couldn't help but envy them. Yet practicality dictated I had to work to make ends meet. Thankfully, Marty understood our circumstances. When he returned from school, he pitched in with dinner and chores. Knowing Marty's kind nature, I wanted him to keep enjoying what he loved most, playing soccer. Marty considered quitting due to the travel costs for matches, but both the coach and I persuaded him to stay. I might be biased, but I truly believe Marty has a natural talent for soccer. On game days, I would either take time off work or rearrange my schedule just to be there to support him. Initially, other parents were taken aback to see a sister, not a parent, cheering Marty on. However, as Marty's skills on the field flourished and my encouragement grew louder, the curious glances gradually faded away. Once Marty reached high school, scouts from colleges and even professional leagues began attending his games. This attention ultimately helped him secure an athletic scholarship for college. When it was time for college, Marty declared, "I'm going to work. I can't keep relying on you, sis." I shook my head firmly. "I want you to keep pursuing your dreams, Marty. Through you, I get to experience the youth I missed." Marty frowned slightly at my words. "I'll make it to the pros for sure and take care of you, sis." "Thank you, but I don't need you to worry about me. My only dream is to see you become a professional soccer player." I smiled warmly to reassure him. "I'll be fine." "Sure, sis. You're the one who's always working hard," Marty conceded. But in my eyes, Marty was the true embodiment of hard work. True to his word, Marty turned professional after excelling in college. I continued at the supermarket, eventually scaling back to part-time hours. Time flew by, almost 15 years since I first started working there. One evening during a break, a text from Marty lit up my phone. It read, "There's someone I want you to meet." I jumped up in excitement, momentarily forgetting I was in the break room at the supermarket. The news that Marty had found someone special filled me with such joy that tears streamed down my face as I shared the story with my coworkers and manager. Marty had always been a good-natured kid, hardly ever asking for anything. He shed his rebellious streak entirely after our parents passed away. He even considered giving up soccer, his greatest passion, just to support me. And now, I was about to meet someone who meant a lot to him. Could I be any happier? The text message contained all the details, date, time, and the name of a restaurant in a nearby hotel. When I shared the news with my coworkers, they insisted, "You've got to dress up." I was usually mindful of my appearance, but I didn't own anything particularly fancy. After finishing my part-time shift, my coworkers insisted on taking me to the shopping district. We visited boutiques I rarely frequented, trying on various outfits until I settled on a classy yet simple dress. From there, we ventured to a large mall where I splurged on branded makeup and received a tutorial. Despite the exhaustion that comes from shopping after work, it felt like a welcome release. I had eagerly anticipated this day, counting down on my calendar for weeks. A few days later, I nervously sat in the hotel lobby where we had agreed to meet, dressed in the outfit I had chosen with my coworkers' help. My attempt at makeup followed the tutorial I had received, hoping I had done it justice. As I anxiously waited, I suddenly heard a familiar voice behind me calling out, "Sis." Slowly turning around, I saw Marty in a suit standing beside a stunning woman with long hair. "Sis, you look stunning." I made sure to dress up too, Marty exclaimed proudly as he introduced me to someone special. I chuckled at his remark, which seemed to please him. Let me introduce you. This is my fiancée, Vanessa. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Vanessa, your future sister-in-law. She greeted me warmly. Receiving such a gracious welcome from such a striking woman only added to my nerves. Managing a smile, I replied, I'm Marty's sister, Joanna. After the introductions, we decided to move to a nearby restaurant. Once seated, conversation flowed as we discussed various topics. Vanessa comes from a well-known family around here, and her father is apparently quite wealthy. Marty has told me about you. After your parents passed away, you've been like a parent to him. Parent-like, I wouldn't say. Don't be modest. You gave up high school for me and went to work. Wait, you didn't finish high school? Yeah, I started working right after middle school at a supermarket. It's been 15 years now. Just then, something felt off. Though Vanessa was nodding and making cute faces, it felt like she was looking down on me from behind her eyes. I initially dismissed it as my imagination, but then I caught her disdainful expression when Marty wasn't looking. That dress looks lovely on you, she complimented me, yet the way she appraised me from head to toe and snickered quietly confirmed my suspicions. She was definitely looking down on me. Next year, we're planning to get married, Marty announced somewhat sheepishly. Honestly, I wasn't overjoyed, but if this was Marty's decision, I had to support him. All I could manage was a broad smile as I congratulated them. As our meeting concluded, I had my doubts, but if they were happy, who was I to intervene? I chose to let it pass. Days flew by, and suddenly Marty's wedding day was upon us. As I prepared my outfit and gathered necessities, Vanessa's call interrupted me. I quickly returned it, concerned about the reason for her call. I'm busy too. Could you get to the point? Her abrupt greeting caught me off guard. I apologize for running late. It's my fault, I said sincerely. On the other end, Vanessa sighed audibly before delivering a surprising request. Could you, sister-in-law, please consider not attending the wedding tomorrow? What? I don't understand, I replied, taken aback. Vanessa, what do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. I don't think even Marty would want his sister, who works at a grocery store, to be there, she said with a condescending tone that made me keenly aware of being looked down upon. Her disdain was palpable, and she made no effort to disguise it. But I can't possibly miss my brother's wedding, I insisted firmly. Vanessa, that's not an option. As the bride, I decide what's possible. Please don't force me to repeat myself. It's also for Marty's sake, Vanessa countered, a statement that left me with little room to argue. The guest list for the wedding included Marty's coach and teammates, as well as influential figures from Vanessa's family's business circles, people often referred to as elites. I couldn't shake the feeling that my presence as a high school dropout might disrupt the ambience. Marty might reassure me, but I'm sure others won't feel the same. Perhaps following Vanessa's suggestion and not attending would be best. Fine, I won't come. Can I at least send a congratulatory message, even if it feels impersonal, over the phone? If I can't say it in person, then what's the point? Forget it, Vanessa, I said curtly, ending the call. Shocked, I stared at my phone, now silent in my hand. I wish I could have witnessed Marty's happiness firsthand. Shoving my packed bag into a corner of the room, I crawled into bed, deciding to sleep through the day. I had no energy for anything else, and I feared that if I let my emotions surface, tears would follow. I tried to force my eyes shut, but sleep eluded me until morning. When I finally checked my phone, I saw multiple missed calls from Marty, expected, given the circumstances. The family was supposed to leave for the wedding venue early that morning. Just then, another call from Marty came through. Hello, sis, where are you? He asked urgently. I'm on my way, Marty, I replied. I can't do it today, I added after a pause. I could feel the disappointment in his voice. Why? Marty asked softly. I hesitated, torn about revealing the truth. Before I could respond, Marty continued. Did Vanessa say something? Is that why? How did? Before I could inquire further, he cuts me off. Forget it, just come over now. We'll talk later. With that, he ends the call abruptly. Despite my initial decision not to attend, I hastily prepare and leave home, my mind troubled by concerns for Marty and Vanessa. Arriving at the venue, I hear raised voices even before entering the waiting room. Guided by the venue staff, I step inside to witness Marty, Vanessa, and her parents engaged in a heated argument. Surrounding them, bewildered relatives who were meant to be guests look on in confusion. What do you mean not inviting Joanna to the wedding? Marty's voice carries frustration. I can't have a supermarket worker as my sister-in-law. It's embarrassing, Vanessa retorts, her parents nodding in agreement beside her. It's disheartening to see them all aligned on this issue. Witnessing Marty's escalating anger, I see this frustration boiling over. What do you mean I should be embarrassed? Joanna has worked tirelessly her whole life to take care of me, he asserts passionately. Vanessa scoffs at his defense. Because of your sister, I might never marry. You know I should come first, right? That's right, Vanessa asserts confidently, as if it's self-evident. Absolutely, her parents chime in unison. Meanwhile, Marty looks ready to explode with rage. Marty, Vanessa, let's try to calm down. I interject hastily, attempting to diffuse the tension. But Vanessa suddenly notices my presence and snaps. Why are you here? People like you, who work at supermarkets, weren't invited. Leave now. Why does she have to say things like that? I thought, struggling to hold back tears in front of Vanessa. Just then, a voice broke through the murmurs of the crowd of onlookers. Wait a moment, I can't let that comment slide, declared the voice. Its owner pushed through the gathering and stood before us. Coach. It was Marty's team coach, who had arrived early for the ceremony and intervened upon hearing the disturbance. Judging someone by their occupation is unjust, he asserted firmly. Vanessa shot him a pained glance. Even she couldn't maintain her composure in front of the coach. Well, that may be, the coach remarked with a wry smile as he pulled a book from his bag. My initial sadness evaporated, replaced by a rush of embarrassment. Are you sure she's low level, even by your standards? He challenged. That's a bestseller. What does this have to do with anything? I exclaimed, recognizing the book in his hands. It was a novel I had written under the pseudonym Annie. Vanessa and her parents were left speechless. The coach held up the book, revealing my secret identity as its author. The novel traced back to a time before Marty's soccer career took off. When life settled down after our parents' passing, I turned to reading as a solace, often spending time at a library near my supermarket workplace. That library had a public computer corner where I first explored writing, fueled by my passion for books. On a whim, I entered a contest and won, leading to connections with a publishing house. Now, I'm a recognized author of several bestsellers and often featured in the media. I've never heard this story, Vanessa finally spoke after a moment of stunned silence. Marty interrupted sharply. I never mentioned it, but it's true, fixing a firm gaze on Vanessa. Marty's sincerity seemed to sway Vanessa. She turned to me, her demeanor shifting from skeptical to genuinely impressed. If you're such an accomplished person, that changes things. Please join us for the ceremony. Don't toy with me. I'm not marrying you, Marty declared firmly, causing Vanessa to bristle. What did you just say? She retorted, her anger palpable. The coach intervened, holding Vanessa back. We can't go on like everything's normal after the way you've treated my sister. Marty continued, his voice resolute. I'm sorry, but I can't go through with this, Vanessa. Amidst protests from Vanessa's parents and the relatives who had gathered for the wedding, Marty offered a heartfelt apology. This isn't happening, Vanessa's parents exclaimed, restrained by their own relatives. After some heated exchanges, it was decided that Vanessa's guests would leave. Vanessa herself continued to demand, "You have to marry me," as they departed. In the dressing room afterward, it was just Marty and me. Mary slumped onto the sofa, looking utterly drained. Are you sure it was the right decision to call off the wedding? I couldn't resist asking, though I knew it might reopen old wounds. Marty let out a bitter laugh. Being the soccer player means your time in the spotlight is limited. I don't think a marriage with Vanessa, who's so focused on her career, would have lasted. His words made sense. Marty had a valid point. I can imagine how Vanessa, who belittled me for working at a supermarket, would treat you if you gave up soccer, I remarked, thinking aloud. Why didn't you mention that I'm a writer? I asked Marty, curious about his reasoning. Marty had kept my identity as a writer from Vanessa, and I sensed there was a deliberate reason behind his silence. When I brought it up, Marty simply smiled. I couldn't shake the feeling that Marty had seen through Vanessa's facade. Numerous discussions unfolded between our families, ultimately leading to the formal cancellation of the engagement. Vanessa and her parents vehemently resisted to the very end, but the intervention of other relatives prevailed. Despite the broken engagement, Marty continued to excel in his soccer career. In contrast, Venus's family endured public scrutiny after her outburst in the waiting room was splashed across the media. As for me, I'm contemplating transforming this ordeal into a novel while balancing my writing career with my job at the supermarket. I intend to keep supporting Marty just as we've always done. I'm Ashley, enjoying the tranquil life alongside my husband, John. Yet there's a recurring issue. My brother's wife, Rachel. Together, they have a 3-year-old daughter named Aita, our cherished niece, adored by both John and me. While it's enjoyable to have Aita visit occasionally, Rachel seems to bring her over almost every week. Ashley, could you look after Aita this week? Rachel asks, as usual. Sure thing. Aita, behave yourself, okay? Okay. Aita eagerly bounds from the entryway to our living room, full of energy. Assuming John, who's lounging there, will take care of her, I steel myself to speak with Rachel. John and I adore Aita, but having her over every week is becoming a bit overwhelming. Even though we work from home, I'm an illustrator and John is a programmer. We're both freelancers. As freelancers, we have the flexibility to adjust our schedules based on our workload, but it's challenging to juggle childcare during busy periods. However, ensuring our niece's safety is our top priority, so I find myself multitasking, working on my tablet while keeping a watchful eye on her. I feel guilty for voicing my concerns to Rachel, my brother's wife, fearing it might strain their relationship, but the burden has become too heavy to bear. I'm truly sorry, but could today be the last day we watch Aita? I ask her gently. It's only later that I realize my mistake. She arches her eyebrows and sharply rebukes me. You wouldn't understand, Ashley, not having children of your own. Raising kids is incredibly tough. You can't possibly comprehend the challenges we face with Aita. Her words pierce my heart like daggers. It's because I'm infertile, I confess, feeling the weight of the admission. John and I have always dreamed of having children. We talked about it before we got married. But despite our efforts, we couldn't conceive. After seeking medical advice, we learned about my condition, which makes pregnancy extremely difficult. We're currently undergoing fertility treatments, which are physically taxing and financially draining. Each month, the hopeful anticipation of starting a family brings immense emotional stress for both John and me. Being blamed for not understanding the challenges of parenthood strikes a painful chord, especially amidst our struggles. But her accusations don't cease. Unlike you two who stay cooped up at home, I'm a sociable person. I have many friends who depend on me. Today, I brought Aita here because I'm heading to London to visit a friend. You two, who lead reclusive lives and don't contribute to society, should be grateful that I'm doing you a favor too. If you understand, take good care of Aita and stop complaining. After Rachel's heated departure, her scent lingering in the air, I re-enter the living room. John, evidently privy to the confrontation, wears an unusual frown. I didn't want Aita to witness all that, that's why I stayed back. But that was too much, he remarks, his tone edged with irritation. It's been roughly a month since little Aita began her weekly visits. Sensing it's time to address the situation, I resolve to call my brother Chris. Hey Chris. Hey Ashley. What's going on? It's been a while. Everything alright? I had been pondering Chris's decision to leave Aita with us. Despite his usual demeanor over the phone, my recent clash with Rachel left me on edge. So, with a hint of frustration, I broached the subject. Hey bro, Aita is adorable and all, but having her over every week is becoming quite the challenge. John and I have deadlines to meet as freelancers, you know? Some consideration would be appreciated. Ha! Aita? She's sleeping right now, he responded. Confusion set in as Chris claimed Aita was at home sleeping. When he sent a photo of Aita asleep, it didn't match the Aita we knew. I countered with a picture of Aita playing with John, to which he asked, "Who's that girl?" The last time I saw Aita with Chris, she was still a baby, unable to walk. The realization hit me that the child regularly left in our care, supposedly Aita, might not actually be her. But then, why would Rachel bring her over? Chris and I exchanged puzzled looks. Suddenly, John, who had been silently absorbing our conversation, tentatively addressed Chris. Chris, I apologize if I'm mistaken and I know this might be impolite, but have you noticed anything odd about Rachel lately? John and I had discussed it numerous times. Rachel's behavior had changed noticeably since her parents passed away from illness. Family gatherings ceased altogether. The last time I saw Rachel a few years ago, she was still attractive but dressed more modestly. Recently, however, she's been donning vibrant colors like red and blue and flaunting flashy accessories. Chris appeared to have picked up on these changes too, his response tinged with a hint of melancholy. Yeah, maybe, he admitted before abruptly ending the call with a promise to follow up later. While we sympathized with Chris's situation, John and I couldn't shake the suspicion that Rachel might be unfaithful. There was little we could do about her possible infidelity other than trust Chris to handle it. Our focus shifted to uncovering the identity of the cheerful girl playing before us. Aita, you're 3 years old, aren't you? Can you tell us your name? We had always assumed she was our niece, never bothering to confirm her name. But if she wasn't Aita, we needed to know. My heart racing, I questioned the girl, who responded with a beaming smile. I'm Aita Johnson. I'm 3 years old. After a brief exchange of glances with John, we praised little Aita, trying to maintain our composure. You said that perfectly, we chimed in, hoping to conceal our unease. We carried on as usual, not wanting Aita to sense our apprehension. The surname Johnson was unfamiliar to us, leaving us uncertain of the child's origin. Despite our confusion, it was evident that little Aita was innocent in all of this. Hoping to aid my brother in his investigation, I messaged him on WhatsApp, informing him that the girl with us was Aita Johnson. His reply was curt, "Understood, thanks." Later that afternoon, my brother showed up at our doorstep with another person in tow. Sorry to impose, but I need to discuss something with Rachel when she comes to collect Aita. Would you mind if we wait here? He inquired, and I readily consented, still harboring resentment toward Rachel for betraying my brother. As the evening slipped into night, Rachel stumbled into our home, clearly intoxicated. I'm back, Peter. I'm here to take you home, she slurred, oblivious to the impending tempest. As Rachel casually strolled back, seemingly on the verge of breaking, I greeted her with a forced smile. Hey, welcome back, Rachel. You seem a bit tipsy. How about I get you some water? That'd be great. Is this your way of making up for the nonsense you spouted earlier? As Rachel entered the living room, her usual cheerful demeanor contrasting with her slightly inebriated state, Aita was engrossed in play on the lap of a woman. Rachel glanced at the scene with confusion, noticing the woman's disapproving glare. Who's that? Did you hire a sitter? Nice to meet you. I'm Katie Johnson, Aita's mom. What? Rachel's surprise was so profound she couldn't even grasp the glass of water I offered, stumbling backward until she collided with a corner and tumbled to the floor. I watched her sprawled there, offering no assistance, when my brother's voice echoed from the entrance. I've brought him. Why is Chris here too? Rachel, still on the floor, exclaimed as my brother ushered in a man with flamboyantly colored hair. Rachel blanched at the sight of the man, and he paled upon seeing Katie. My brother directed Rachel and the unfamiliar man to sit beside each other. Though unbidden, they both attempted to straighten up, but their posture remained uneasy, their eyes darting about with evident unease. Because it wasn't suitable to subject a child to such a tense situation, John, who had been entertaining Aita in the adjacent room, whisked her away. With everyone assembled, my brother assumed command, fixing his gaze on Rachel and the man. I never thought my close friend would betray me with my wife. Isn't that right? No. An acquaintance from Chris's high school years still kept in touch and occasionally visited Chris's home. Chris had always felt uneasy about the way Noah looked at Rachel. I always figured if Rachel was going to stray, it'd be with you. But to find out it's actually you, and you have the nerve to leave your own kid with my sister and her husband. What the hell, man? Chris, once a notorious troublemaker in their small Nebraska town, had since settled into a corporate job, but his confrontational side resurfaced when he faced Noah. At Chris's chilling accusation, Noah let out a pitiful scream. Oh no, he replied in a trembling voice before continuing. It was Rachel who initiated everything. She sought me out at my salon, specifically asking for me. She confessed she had feelings for me. You can't just put this all on me. You were just as involved. You two morons. The first thing you need to do is apologize. Chris's words prompted Rachel and Noah to start apologizing, or so I assumed. However, it became clear that Noah, who could calmly leave his daughter with strangers, wasn't operating on a normal wavelength. Noah, pointing at the tearful Katie, raised his voice. It's all her fault. She barely pays attention to me, so I felt lonely and cheated. If anyone's to blame, it's Katie. Don't you dare deflect. Katie's sudden outburst startled Noah. When Chris brought her closer, she exuded quiet elegance. I never imagined my husband would entrust aita to strangers while I'm at work. I'm deeply sorry. The usually humble Katie's fury was palpable. What do you mean you cheated because you felt lonely? Have you no self-control? And leaving aita with strangers. Why would you do such a thing? Katie's frustration was evident. And it's because Rachel mentioned her sister-in-law and her husband are childless with nothing but time on their hands. So they're a convenient option, right? But we may not have kids, but we work from home. We're not babysitters. I told Rachel this morning. We're struggling. We never imagined you were using us to care for your mistress's child as if it were your own. But is that okay? Maybe I'll be blamed for cheating, but I've just shown a childless couple what it's like to have kids. What? The voice that escaped, resonating deep like Chris's, drew my attention to Rachel, who bore a striking resemblance to her partner. She uttered a pitiful, "Oh no," before erupting. This is none of your business, adults. We've been struggling to conceive. You were aware of that, weren't you? Your constant insensitive remarks have been infuriating. But I tolerated them because you're Chris's wife. Not anymore. Let me make it clear, you're incredibly rude. Bringing a stranger's child into our home without permission, and your garish makeup that doesn't suit your age, your overpowering perfume. When I finally voiced my long-held thoughts, Rachel flushed crimson, realizing she had no ground left to stand on. She bit her lip, remaining silent. Following that, Chris and Katie delivered a thorough scolding to Rachel and Noah. Predictably, both couples ended up divorcing, facing substantial financial burdens. Chris spread the news of Noah's affair with Rachel to his friends in Nebraska, and the gossip soon reached Noah's local hair salon. Noah, now the talk of the town, found himself unemployed after being fired. Rachel, previously a homemaker, struggled to secure employment, lacking work experience since she became a housewife straight out of college. Unsurprisingly, her job hunt proved arduous. Upon discovering her infidelity, Rachel's parents disowned her, leaving her to scrape by with sporadic odd jobs. Both Rachel and Noah lost not only their jobs but also their families due to their indiscretions, finding themselves in a pitiable state. To my surprise, fertility treatments proved successful for me. I'm pregnant, and guess what? We're expecting twins. John and I couldn't hold back tears of joy as we eagerly anticipate the arrival of our babies. We still maintain close ties with aita and Katie, with whom we share a unique bond. Aita and Arnis aita get along famously, often playing joyfully together. They even lovingly touch my belly, addressing the babies with, "Let's play together once you're born," which melts my heart. Despite my brother Chris and Katie being betrayed by their partners, they've committed to raising their children as single parents. John and I stand ready to assist in any way necessary. The four of us, John, Chris, Katie, and myself, have made a pact to collaborate in raising our niece Aita and the twins on the way, forging a resilient bond between us. You won a trip to the Caribbean in a sweepstakes. Well, if that's the case, Mommy and I are going. You're staying behind. Got it. If not, we're getting divorced, Andrew declared, his threat of divorce hanging in the air like a heavy cloud. His mother, standing beside him, wore a smirk of triumph, relishing the moment. I couldn't let this blatant manipulation slide. No, I would concoct my own special revenge against this conniving mother-son duo. My name is Lillian, aged 32, just your average working mother at some nondescript company. Andrew and I had been married for 2 years. I had stumbled upon him, 2 years my senior, through a mutual acquaintance. Romance was never my forte. I hadn't dated much during college and my post-graduation relationships hadn't panned out. Before I knew it, I was 30, and my concerned parents had begun seeking potential matches for me. Andrew appeared on the scene, a composed and caring individual with a strong devotion to his parents, a trait that resonated with my own values. Thinking perhaps I could forge a connection with him, I agreed to marry him. Our wedding was a smooth affair, celebrated by many, and initially, our union seemed to be pure bliss. About 6 months into our marriage, my phone began to ring incessantly, each call bearing Andrew's name. With a sense of urgency, I returned his call, only to be met with his strained voice on the other end. "Please try to stay calm," he began, his words heavy with distress. "It's about Dad. Something's happened to Alfred. He collapsed at home and has been rushed to the hospital." And then, it hit me like a wave. The sudden news of my father-in-law's passing was unfathomable. He had always been the epitome of health. The shock was palpable, not just for me, but for everyone involved. Following Alfred's passing, Andrew's attention shifted drastically towards his now solitary mother. He became excessively attentive, visiting her daily, sharing meals or accompanying her on shopping trips. He even took special leave to embark on a trip with her. It wasn't that he neglected me, but whenever our plans clashed, his priority was always her. "Sorry, Lillian, Mom just called and she needs me," he would say apologetically. "But we had plans," I'd protest, feeling the sting of disappointment. "She's feeling alone," he'd reason. "You don't mind, do you? You can go to the movies alone, can't you?" "I'm fine," I'd reply, though inwardly resentment brewed. Why was I the one being held accountable? Wasn't Matilda the one making demands? Regardless of Andrew's apparent devotion to his lonely mother-in-law, it's evident that he's a mama's boy. Yet aside from this recurrent issue with his mom, our marriage was tolerable. I presume this was simply the norm for married life. My personal refuge. Solving crossword puzzles with enticing prizes. They provided solace whenever Andrew abandoned me for Matilda, and occasionally, I'd score gift cards or delectable treats. Then came the day I clinched a pair of tickets to the Caribbean, the grandest prize I'd ever won. I meticulously verified my victory multiple times, consumed by exhilaration. The tickets necessitated specifying the travel companions before contacting the airline. Contemplating who to bring Andrew naturally came to mind, but hesitations lingered. He often jetted off with Matilda, and if I proposed a trip together, she might insist on tagging along. After careful deliberation, I resolved to gift the trip to my parents. As I made my way home, I swung by my parents' place to share the thrilling news. "Mom, guess what? I've won tickets to the Caribbean," I announced, burning with excitement. "Oh goodness, that's wonderful news. You and Andrew must be thrilled," Mom responded, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Not quite," I replied with a grin. "I've decided to give them to you and Dad." "To us? Are you sure?" Mom exclaimed, clearly taken aback. "Absolutely. Andrew's always traveling, but I want you two to have this experience," I reassured her. "Thank you, Lillian. We're beyond grateful," Mom beamed, her excitement palpable. Dad, however, appeared deep in thought. "Dad seems troubled," I observed. "Well, work's been hectic lately. It's not the best time for me to be away," Dad explained with a furrowed brow. "That's unfortunate," I acknowledged. Then Dad suggested, "Why not take Olivia instead? After all, it was your prize originally, wasn't it? Enjoy some quality time together." Mom's face lit up at the idea. "That sounds lovely." Feeling elated and increasingly excited, I applied for leave the next day, which was promptly approved. I wasted no time contacting the airline to arrange for my parents to use the tickets. On my way home from work, I stopped by a bookstore and purchased a guidebook for the Caribbean trip. It had been far too long since Mom and I had gone on an adventure together, and I couldn't wait to make new memories. But upon arriving home, I was met with an unexpected sight. "I'm home," I called out upon entering, expecting to find Andrew, but instead discovering the house illuminated by lights. Oddly, there were women's shoes at the entrance rather than Andrew's. Contemplating this, I was met with the sight of Matilda as she swung open the living room door. "Lillian, do you have any idea what time it is?" she scolded. "Oh, Matilda, I didn't realize you were here," I responded, taken aback. "It's not just about me being here. Coming home this late, what have you been up to?" "Andrew will be back any minute now," she continued, her tone accusatory. "I'm sorry, I'll start dinner right away," I offered, hoping to diffuse the tension. "It's not just about dinner, is it? Making the bed is basic common sense for a daughter-in-law. Do you even take your role seriously?" Matilda questioned sharply. "I apologize if things have fallen short because of my work. Perhaps you should consider being more dedicated to your home," I retorted, feeling the weight of her disapproval. With Matilda living nearby and holding a spare key, her unannounced visits were a regular occurrence. Embracing traditional beliefs about a daughter-in-law's duties, she clearly disapproved of my full-time job. Her constant nitpicking and criticism made it difficult for me to warm up to her. As I began preparing dinner, Matilda suddenly exclaimed, "Hold on. What's this, Lillian? Are you planning a trip to the Caribbean?" Surprised, she had unearthed the newly purchased guidebook from my bag. "Matilda, why are you going through my things?" I protested. "That's beside the point. What's this about the Caribbean?" she demanded, her tone sharp. I had won the trip in a sweepstakes, intending to gift it to Mom. I hadn't mentioned it to anyone yet. Our argument was abruptly halted by Andrew's arrival. Matilda rushed to him, pointing an accusatory finger in my direction. Andrew, listen to this. Lillian's been utterly thoughtless. What's going on, Mom? Did Lillian pull one of her stunts again? A Caribbean trip, planning to give it to Olivia without even consulting me. What Caribbean trip? This is news to me too, Andrew demanded, glaring at me. It's quite simple. I won the trip and thought of giving it to my parents. But since Dad can't go, you're going with Olivia, I explained calmly. Yeah, so what's the problem? You're always traveling with Matilda, Andrew retorted. It's not the same. Mom and I only go on domestic trips. We haven't been abroad in years. How could you decide this without even talking to me? It's my prize. Why should I have to? I protested, feeling my frustration rise. Andrew slammed his hand on the table, cutting me off. You're getting too bold for a daughter-in-law. Mommy and I are going. You'll stay home. Mommy, I couldn't hide the disdain in my voice at Andrew's juvenile choice of words. Wait a minute. This trip, you've had enough of it. If you're not happy, let's talk about divorce, Andrew declared sharply. What divorce? I was taken aback, unable to comprehend his extreme reaction. Threatening divorce over something so trivial seemed absurd. Fueled by anger, I fired back. I earned this trip fair and square. I've already made up my mind to gift it to my own mother. Can't you pick up on the signals for once? Mom wants to go. Where does it end with prioritizing Matilda? You never take my feelings into consideration. I don't care how you feel. Like I said, this trip is for Mommy and me. Stay home and behave. Andrew dismissed me coldly. My affection for Andrew waned rapidly in that moment. It was clear that in his eyes I ranked lower than Matilda. I couldn't continue to tolerate this absurd dynamic between the two of them. Keeping my composure, I told Andrew, fine, do as you please and enjoy your trip. Humph, you should have listened to reason from the beginning. Suit yourself. Always being argumentative, Andrew huffed in response. The Andrew I once knew, kind and understanding, seemed to have vanished, and there was Matilda, wearing a smug smirk of victory. It was then that I made up my mind to leave the house while they were away on their trip. I resolved to let Andrew and Matilda have this time together. The following day, I reached out to the airline to inform them of the change in travelers, substituting Andrew and my mother-in-law. However, the operator's response carried a note of concern. I'm sorry, but once the participants are confirmed, we're unable to modify them, they explained. Is that so? I inquired, a sinking feeling settling in. Yes. Additionally, this airline ticket stipulates that the original winner must be present. If your husband and mother-in-law are listed, the ticket will be rendered invalid, the operator clarified. So, if I don't go, the ticket serves no purpose, I confirmed. Correct. Please refer to the documents we provided, outlining this specific condition, they advised. Upon reviewing the documents, I discovered a clear statement. Only the winner was authorized to use the ticket, and it was non-transferable. Relaying this information to the operator, I made the decision to decline the trip without informing Andrew and Matilda. Instead, I resolved to let them make their own arrangements for travel at their own expense. That evening, upon my return from work, I broached the topic of the Caribbean trip with Andrew. Andrew, about the trip to the Caribbean. Yeah, you've contacted the airline, right? Informing them that Mommy and I will be going, he interrupted. I did make the call. Here are the winning documents and the tickets. I only need the tickets. I won't bother with the documents, I explained, handing them over. There are detailed instructions in those documents. Considering it's an international trip, it might be wise to give them a read, Andrew suggested cautiously. I don't see the need. Mommy and I know what we're doing. We're efficient, unlike you, he asserted confidently. Fine, whatever. I'll leave them here just in case. I relented, sensing it was futile to argue further. As I anticipated, Andrew neglected to read the documents, leading to a debacle on the day of the trip. After confirming his departure, I swiftly packed my bags and made my way to my parents' house. While unpacking as expected, I received a call from Andrew. As soon as I answered, he erupted, "What's going on? They're saying the ticket can't be used." That's correct. If the winner doesn't travel, the ticket becomes void, I explained calmly. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Andrew demanded, his tone accusatory. I did tell you. Remember? It would have been wise to read the instructions. I reminded him. You mean it was in those documents you gave me? Andrew realized with frustration. Exactly. It's your responsibility for not reading them, I replied matter-of-factly. This is ridiculous. How are we supposed to get to the Caribbean? Andrew panicked. Well, the operator did mention that if the winner doesn't travel, you'd have to pay the full price, I informed him. The full price? Andrew exclaimed, clearly caught off guard. In the background, I could hear Matilda's voice, indicating they were both distressed. Andrew, what did Lillian say? Matilda's voice interjected. Mommy, if Lillian doesn't have to pay for the trip, Andrew began, but I didn't catch the rest of his sentence as he handed the phone to Matilda. They can sort it out themselves, I heard Andrew mutter before ending the call. After ending the call, it wasn't long before Andrew rang again. Hello, I answered. What's going on? I'm busy, Andrew snapped. It's not what's going on. I tried to purchase the tickets, but the credit card isn't working, he exclaimed in frustration. Huh? I don't know anything about your card, I responded, puzzled. It's not mine, it's your card, he clarified. Oh, so you're saying you used my card without my permission? I realized with a sinking feeling. Just fix it now, Andrew demanded impatiently. I recalled checking my wallet earlier that morning and discovering my card missing. Suspecting the worst, I immediately froze it. I knew you took it, I accused. Are you kidding me? I was planning to use that card for shopping abroad, Andrew retorted defensively. Always causing problems, you jerk, I seethed with anger. You freaking witch, Andrew fired back, showing no remorse for his actions or for taking the trip. It was yet another instance of him prioritizing himself above all else. I can't deal with this anymore, I declared, my frustration boiling over. A jerk? Who are you calling that? After constantly belittling others, you can just go to hell. Andrew shot back defensively. What? Who are you talking to like that? I countered sharply. Who do you think? Your constant reliance on Mommy is honestly creepy. If you love her so much, why don't you two just stick together? I can't handle being married to a mama's boy like you. There's no point in us being together. I lashed out, my words dripping with disdain. Hey, calm down. If you keep this up, we'll get a divorce, Andrew warned. Fine by me. I've been thinking the same thing, I retorted, my anger flaring. With that, I stormed out of the house with no intention of returning. Let them enjoy their time abroad in the Caribbean. Maybe they'll both sink, they and Mama's boy. In a fit of rage, I hung up and blocked both Andrew and his mother. Determined to end this toxic relationship, I sought legal advice from a firm recommended by my father and initiated the divorce process. Upon reviewing our savings for asset division, I made a startling discovery. Our joint account had been emptied. That was the shocking discovery I made upon reviewing our joint account. There were numerous withdrawals, all coinciding with Andrew's trips with his mother. It became evident that he had used our savings to fund their travels in addition to unauthorized charges on my credit card. Demanding compensation, I insisted on a significant sum. However, Andrew's financial situation quickly spiraled into debt, and he found himself hounded by creditors. The once indulged mother, now constrained by our actions, witnessed her relationship with Andrew sour, their interactions fraught with arguments. The irony wasn't lost on me, considering his past behavior. Meanwhile, I made the decision to reside with my parents for a period. Recognizing the concern I had caused, I was determined to repay their kindness by living with them and attending to their needs. Marriage held little appeal for me now. What truly mattered was the love and support of a caring family. Through the tumult of divorce, I found solace in this realization once again.